addiction. Addiction leads to all kinds of other complications in life. So now, by training the mind in this way, in a positive way, through moral conduct and also through meditation, regular practice of meditation, one can have a handle on this tendency to be violent or to steal or to be corrupt, and you see, all these things one can have a handle on all those. So here everything starts with feeling. There is feeling that gave rise to, you see, because it's at the level of, at the level of feeling you have not tackled feeling, or at the very beginning of feeling. If you are a meditator and you are training the mind on the basis of meditation on feelings or contemplation on feelings, you develop mindfulness on every feeling that arises at any contact point, whether eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind. An idea arises in your mind, and if you are mindful about it, then you can have control. And if the feeling that arises with the arising of an idea in the mind as a faculty, and the mental object is an idea or a concept, or any doctrine or anything, any mental object, now that arises, and with the arising of a mental object of that kind, you begin to think. And thinking triggers, you see, a process where you either like the idea, dislike the idea, all kinds of things can arise. And it starts with feeling. As soon as the mind and the mental object meets, and that's the contact point, and then feeling arises there. With the feeling, if you like that particular thinking, or if you dislike it, if you are attracted by it or repelled by it, there will be a reaction. So the feeling creates a reaction. A chain of associated thinking will flow, you see, and thereafter it will lead you to either, you see, desiring, craving and all the, what I have briefly described now. So this thing happens. Now if a person is meditating on feeling, and he starts from the very initial stage, he observes, for instance, every feeling that arises at any of the contact points, i.e. the five bodily faculties or mind, and you observe all the time any feeling that arises, whether it's a pleasant feeling, and if so, whether you are attracted by it, you want to enjoy it, or you just become, you are aware of that is a pleasant feeling, then you train your mind straight away. Based upon this mindfulness, you say, oh, it's only a pleasant feeling. You don't associate or assume any I. You don't say, I am fine, it is, I am this, I am the feeling here. You identify yourself or your ego with this feeling. That is how it happens all the time. For the average people, when they have something nice feeling, they don't see it as a feeling. They call it, oh, I am fine, it's my feeling. I feel this way. So he assumes that there is an element called I. What is that I? For the average person, no. He has assumed that there is a permanent element somewhere, hiding somewhere in the mind, or in he calls it a soul or anything, by some term. So he assumes, you see, something existing, whereas it is not. It's an adventitious element. What actually exists is the feeling. So if you say, I feel, you assume this I, and you have created a concept of I. So I-ness, mine-ness, ultimately, and you see, simply it means a concept. I is a concept. My is a concept, my property. I am this. I like this. I hate this. All these are mental concepts created by mind. They are constructed by mind. And they involve the mind in a way as to create all the, misfortunes that human beings are capable of creating for themselves. Misfortunes are not created by any extra, by any supernatural being or anything like that. Destiny is not created by any supernatural element. It is created by one's own conduct, one's own action. And the action springs from this. The source is the feeling. So if you are mindful about your feeling, and as soon as you say, oh, I feel this way, you say, hey, what's that I? You question yourself. And you say, what is this I? From where has it come? I am assuming it to be a permanent element. Instead, let me experience just the experience of feeling itself. So you desist from saying, I feel so. You say, oh, it is a pleasant feeling. The moment you have trained the mind in thinking in that way, thereafter you can be absolutely certain that this assumption of I and many other concepts that can be weakened day after day by sheer training. And a time will come when you can be very impersonal in all your dealings with yourself and with the world. Very impersonal way of looking at things, impersonal way of behaving. All this will occur because you have touched the very heart of reality, truth. The truth is what? Truth is plain feeling here. The question of I feel does not arise. It's an assumed thing. So once you understand that you stick to the ultimate reality of a thing, then what will happen is you can never, get distracted into a fault or some misconception and then get lost in the jungle of concepts. No. So this is how once one begins to train by tracing the beginning of things, that is the feeling, and keep a watch. Observe every feeling. You are eating, all right? You like your food, very good. Eat. Don't say, I like my food, or I like this particular item, or it is my creation. Now these ideas are superimposed on a certain experience, and the experience is feeling. So if you can separate all those which are superimposed, and you just stick to the actual experience of feeling, the result is the mind is filled with insight into reality. That is where knowledge becomes wisdom. Knowledge is not wisdom. Knowledge has to be evolved into wisdom. And that can be done in this way, by sticking to reality. Go to the heart of the matter. Don't beat about the bush here and there with all kinds of ideas and concepts. Just stick to the point. In this case, the feeling, the pleasant feeling is the faculty, is the controlling faculty. It controls your action. It controls your thought to begin with. Thought is mental action. And if the action is intentionally committed, that is bound, it has a potency of its own, therefore it is bound to produce a result which will be compatible with this particular volitional action. It is as plain and simple as that. So some people, they say, yes, there is karma and there is also the result of karma, we accept. But you see, the result is given by some god or some supernatural element and all that. No. That is a misconception. That is a concept which has been turned into an ideology. And when ideology is controlled, then wisdom vanishes. Ideology is created by a person in his own mind. It's a construct, mental construct. So once we learned or to train the mind to separate the reality from concept, then there is no problem. So when you stick to reality of feeling, then you will see your mind becomes very calm and you become more and more mindful in watching the feeling as it is. Just watching the feeling. You will be surprised to see how like a bubble it bursts. It arises, vanishes, arises, vanishes, arises, vanishes. It keeps on going. So as soon as you notice with a very mindful mind, very attentive mind, once you do that, the mind gets more and more concentrated on that. And with greater concentration and mindfulness, the mind becomes calm. It's automatic. As soon as you develop mindfulness and you are able to develop mind, grow further into concentration and then into calmness. So mindfulness, concentration, calmness, this is an automatic process. Once you are focused fully on the thing, this will happen. This is called samatha or calming down meditation. Once this calming down meditation is practiced all the time, mind is very calm, very tranquil, and therefore very steadfast and stable. You can observe fully and clearly every feeling that arises. It's like, a scientist or somebody, a researcher. He has a sample and he puts it under a microscope and then he sees all kinds of germs and microorganisms and virus and all that sort of thing. But with your naked eye you don't see all that. It's only under microscope that it happens, that you can see. So once you create a mental microscope in the form of insight knowledge, insight hyphen knowledge, that means a knowledge based upon an insight into the reality of things. And insight means a direct vision of reality. Flashes of vision arises in the mind based upon this meditational experience of insight knowledge. So once with this insight knowledge is cultivated, developed, that is intuitive wisdom. And it is this wisdom which penetrates into the reality of an object. So here, as you keep on training the mind and developing the mind becomes sufficiently calm and tranquil. There appears the vipassana insight or knowledge, vipassana panya. So this insight knowledge penetrates into the reality and frees the mind from any involvement from misconception, from concept, from unreality, from anything adventitious unconnected with the reality. Once that happens, the mind then becomes what is called freed through panya. Cheto vimutti, panya vimutti. The mind is liberated with the advent of intuitive wisdom. This is how, just by cultivating mindfulness based on every feeling that arises. What is true of pleasant feeling is true of other feelings too. But today we leave it at this, and we'll pick up the thread in the next discourse. The same trend. It's a it's a series on indriya, that is controlling faculties. And in this case what I have discussed is feeling as a controlling faculty. It controls our action, therefore controls our conduct, and therefore controls our destiny here and now and hereafter in future lives. With this I conclude. May the grace of Bhagavan Buddha surround your life with wisdom and well-being. May you all be happy. Sukhino